to the Hustle podcast. I interview the top entrepreneurs and business brains about how they have achieved seven-figure success and beyond. Hear about their life experiences, lessons learned, mindset hacks, tips and tricks, and how to hustle hard to build your business. It is such an honor today to be hosting one of the biggest female tech entrepreneurs worldwide and in New Zealand, the CEO of Data Insights and Valocity. Welcome to the powerhouse, Carmen Vicelich.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Super excited.
Oh, so great to have you here. You have a very busy schedule.
Yeah, it's awesome though. Living in the best life, fitting it all in.
Okay, so there's so much that I want to pack into this interview because I know that you are a huge inspiration for so many business owners. So let's start right at the beginning, your personal story. You migrated to New Zealand at 13 years old from South Africa. What was it like being an immigrant?
It was certainly a huge culture shock. So we came from South Africa where we had maids and I was the oldest of four children. And then moving here, not knowing anybody and really having to reestablish our lives. So it was a huge change. And I think it just made us really closer as a family though, because we didn't know anybody else. And so today we're still very, very close as a family. But it also taught me that actually, if you don't like what's happening, you have the power to change it. And my mum and dad, were very unhappy with what was happening. And so gave up everything to come and really have a better future here. So, huge respect to them coming with four children and starting again.
Wow, that's incredible. You've achieved so much in your career. Give us an overview of what that career journey looked like. How did it all begin?
I think it's really about finding yourself and finding your sweet spot in life. My background is data and tech, but I was working for a very large corporate for 10 years, had four babies along the way and had the flexibility to work from home and work flexibly, but realised after the first baby that I didn't really want to stop. And so I was very lucky. My husband stayed home as the house dad. And then after 10 years, I kind of took stock and thought there was no one doing what I wanted to be doing with data and tech. And I just saw all these problems that were there to be solved. And so really took the big step to go, actually, I'm going to set up on my own and do, solve this problem globally that I think is a huge opportunity. So I had an amazing husband who kind of said, even though I was the income earner, now I have a fifth baby, which was the first business that we started, which followed then with the second one after that.
Wow. And how did you feel when you were pioneering those businesses? Was it just excitement and adrenaline and vision?
It's all of that, and it also feels like you're having to make decisions every single day, but you don't have all the facts, you don't have all the data. You're just actually going on your gut, and so I had this expression that fear is my development rushing towards me, and some days I'm developing really fast because you're just constantly having to make calls and big decisions based on your instinct or your gut or what you think is right. And I think it's really being agile and knowing when to pivot, but also just actually keep moving forward. So it really is, you're going into the unknown. You are going to have to bulldoze through walls. And there's so many stories along the way where something seems impossible and somehow with the right team and perseverance, we've managed to solve it. And I guess it's that fundamental belief that giving up or stopping isn't an option. So how can we do this or what can we do? And saying to ourselves, well, just because no one's done this before doesn't mean it's not possible, or, that's actually because we're solving a really complex problem means the rewards will be even better, because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And that's something else that we say quite a lot.
I love that. And what a strong mindset. Where did you think that mindset has come from?
I think it's a little bit of nurture and nature, actually. So, that my parents always said you can do anything you want to do if you really believe in yourself and you're happy to work hard at it. If you want to be an astronaut and go to the moon, if you're prepared to, do that every single day, or whatever you want to do, and that old adage, whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. And I think that mindset is really, really strong in that self-belief. And for entrepreneurs or, founders, that's just absolutely critical, because you are going to have challenges along the way. And so it's really finding something that you're so passionate about that that just because that's the way it's always been done doesn't make it right. And with data and technology, that's what's so exciting. You can totally transform things and so many things.
Which you have. Valocity is now responsible for over $1 trillion worth of lending decisions. So when you saw the problem, because they say the best businesses are always those that solve, these problems and pain points, what were the steps in terms of actually creating the business? Was it just that you could see that you needed to digitalize and streamline that whole process?
It was recognising that the world has changed, and yet this process hasn't changed at all for so long. And it's such a key part of, for many people, their home is their most valuable asset, and it's such an emotive time. So if we can make that better and easier and simpler with technology and data, then we can change so many people's lives. And then when we extrapolate that through to India, so today in New Zealand we have 90% of lenders connected to Valocity, which is phenomenal. And then we went to Australia, and we're working with incredibly large lenders like Commonwealth Bank Australia, ING. We've now gone to India, where actually we can really help the unbanked, because the bank doesn't necessarily have a credit score to look at to make their decision for you. So they really have to rely on the value of that asset. So if we can make that more accurate than ever before, they can say yes. And that really drives us to be purposeful and actually make a difference there when we're talking massive scale and massive urbanisation and massive growth in market, which is incredibly exciting.
Absolutely incredible. And what's it like being a female tech entrepreneur?
It's definitely, I would say lonely. It's definitely, you feel a little bit, that you are paving the way, because there's still such a shortage. There's a shortage of female entrepreneurs, but when you add tech, I think some tech friends were organising a lunch of tech founders, tech entrepreneurs, and I'm like, I'm the only girl coming. I've got to bring some more girls to the table. Wow. But then I was like, actually, I don't know many to invite that have done digital or tech that are entrepreneurs. So I think, it's exciting as well, though, because there's just so much opportunity in the world, and I think it shouldn't really matter either way. But I mean, hopefully, doing things like today can inspire other females to look at tech and data, because you can work in any industry with tech and data, and you can work from anywhere at any time. And so, if you're wanting a flexible lifestyle because of children or whatever you're wanting to do, it gives you that, which is so exciting.
Absolutely, especially now more than ever with COVID.
We've proven that we can work from anywhere and we can work flexible hours, and so it should really about enabling that. I think, it really does require that passion, because, when I had my first baby, I remember my boss at the time where I was, he was like, well, you can't not take maternity leave, but actually I didn't need to, because I could actually carry on working. So for the next 3, I didn't. And so it really does enable you to, continue if you're wanting to, if you're really passionate about it. And obviously it's not for everybody. But if you look at the most valuable businesses in the world, whether it's Apple, Amazon, Uber, Tesla, they're all built around tech and data and connecting platforms, or connecting, machinery, if you like, for the car example, to make people's lives easier.
Oh, absolutely. And it's incredible, that's the whole ecosystem. So talk to me about what you think the real keys are that have been to your business success.
There's so many things. I think, the most important thing is you can't solve any problem without getting really close to the problem. And so collaboration is key. Whatever you're going to do, understand the problem extremely well and solve it better than ever before. And it sounds really simple, but it really boils down to that, because we were selling to banks. So the chief risk officer is relying on this platform to decide on decisions that are worth billions of dollars, and it's business critical. So there was no room for error. And when we were launching, even my advisory board said they can't say yes. They won't be able to say yes, because I'm going, it's new, it's cloud, it's innovation, and no one's used it before. And it's disruptive technology. But actually they did say yes, because we made it so good they couldn't say no. And so whatever problem you're solving, focus on that problem, getting really close to the customers and solving it better than ever before, and then never stop starting. So one of our values is better never stops. And better never stops keeps us humble, keeps us hungry, and means we know we can keep on making it better. And since launching in New Zealand 7.5 years ago, we've continued to innovate and add on agri and add on insurance and add on different verticals, and then take that global and add on commercial, because there's so much more that we can do. So I think that ongoing innovation is crucial.
Oh, it's been incredible just to see how you've scaled at pace and won multiple international awards.
Yeah, no, we've been incredibly lucky. Probably the Mumbai FinTech of the Year was the biggest shocking one because, even my team had to go to a meeting. We did the pitch and it was such a global competitive process. The companies from Israel and Europe and the US and obviously India and the ASEAN region and Dubai. And even they thought we wouldn't win. I'm like, well, don't worry, coming back, the traffic's really bad. I'll be fine. And I was literally on my phone and then they said the winner of FinTech of the Year was Valocity. And I'm like, that's me. I had to literally throw my phone to this random guy sitting next to me, go take a photo. So it was a real shock. I'm not going to lie, but it was just phenomenal for our brand. And to win as a female tech entrepreneur and go on stage in Mumbai in India as the winner was just really one of those pinch me moments. But yeah, it's really also important to have that recognition for our team and our customers that choose us. So when we do succeed, we don't chase a lot of awards, but when we do, it really makes us proud and for our team to recognise that their tech and their work has been recognised on the global stage, and taking New Zealand tech to the world makes us very excited.
Oh, absolutely. So what are some of the things that you do? Do you have daily rituals in place that keep you sharp mentally and grounded?
I think it's really important. There's no such thing as work-life balance, but it is really important to know where you get your energy and how when you need a recharge and how you do that. And also to know what are your values and what are the things that are really important to you that you're not prepared to compromise. And so I think it's a balance of things. Obviously, as mother of four, having dinner together as a family is something important to me, and we will try, for the most part, keep that time free for me. So even if I'm jumping on calls later in the evening, making sure I've got that slot free. Over the weekend, I'm very lucky too. We live in a lifestyle block with horses, so riding with the kids and being out in the country, I do feel myself just recharging and recalibrating. I've got a daily sauna in the evenings, and I really love that. It really helps me with my energy levels as well. So I think healthy body, healthy mind, and being kind to your body. I love the expression from Warren Buffett where he said, if I gave you a car and I said that's the only car you're going to have your whole life, you would really look after that car. You would check the oil, you would clean it, you would, make sure the water's, this is the one car you're going to have your whole life. Well, you only get one body. And I always think about it like that, going, well, actually, if I'm pushing my body really hard, especially when I was traveling so much, then being kind to my body as much as I can as well was always top of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And how have you overcome some challenges in business and life?
I think, one of the things in COVID was, a certain example of that when we had sort of every city in the world go into lockdown. And as a leader, it was like, well, actually, we've never been here before. And I still have to lead. I still have to make decisions. And so I think it's really important to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. And, you might not want to do plan D, but at least, worst case scenario, you have a plan. So being agile in your thinking, I think, is really important because, no matter what your business, I can promise you, shit's going to happen. And it's going to be, how do you deal with that? And how do you move forward, and how do you go, well, let's not have it happen again, but making sure that you can resolve it. So, there's always going to be challenges. If you're doing anything big, anything new, you're not stretching enough probably if there aren't any challenges. So it's really that mindset. And I think also keep learning yourself and being curious. So I do a lot of reading and recognise, am I the right person to continue to run this business? Am I earning the right, as the business grows, am I growing so that I am the right leader? So that's really important as well.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. What do you do with people that are negative? How do you handle that?
Not very well.
I like the honesty.
Yeah. So it's always good to have devil's advocate and have pragmatism 100%. And that's really good, especially as an optimist entrepreneur. It's important that, you've got people that balance out your thinking. And my husband's really good. He's not negative, but he's certainly also sometimes devil's advocate. Well, have you thought about this? And, maybe I haven't thought about it as much as I could have, or actually it's important as well, I think, to have an advisory board that are looking holistically on the business, going, well, what about this and what about these things that you might be just too close that you haven't thought about. And I think it's, but actually if someone has a negative attitude, generally that don't fit in our culture in either of our businesses, because we're always focusing on, well, actually, what can we do, or how can we solve that problem? Because if you had that attitude, you're not a problem solver, and you're just thinking for all the reasons why you can't do something instead of how you can.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're in India. There were so many obstacles. Everyone goes, "What's it like building a business in India?" Well, it was blood, sweat, and tears. Like, we're constantly problem solving, but actually we've nailed it, and now we're in the zone, which is incredibly exciting. But it didn't just go. Success is not a straight line, and we used to think, well, we're climbing to this top of this mountain. No one's ever been there. Sometimes we're going to go up a dead end. Sometimes there's going to be more bushes to cut through, but we keep on moving forward, we keep on moving up, and we will get there, and the view will be beautiful. So actually having that mindset that as long as we don't go down the same dead end twice, we're moving forward and upwards.
I love that. I think that is so valuable for any business owner that's watching or listening today. And what advice would you give those entrepreneurs about how to really COVID-proof or future-proof their business, especially in the current climate?
I think, it's really important to have focus. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of opportunity, and I think the Kiwi, mentality, is that we can do anything and we can do lots of things. But focus is so important, especially to execute. Everyone has lots of ideas, and, with COVID, it means you may be resource constrained, it means you might be revenue constrained. So you really need to have linear focus on what is the most important thing right now and what actually needs to be delayed and what am I going to say no to? And that's really hard, but strategy, we think about strategy as strategic innovation because we can do anything. We're in tech and data, and disciplined execution. And you need those two things. If you're not disciplined with your execution, your timelines will push out, you won't deliver the right things, you're not going to stay focused on your problem. And I think that's really, really crucial, especially when you're constrained. And we bootstrapped the business for many years. I didn't bring on any funding. So nothing will make you more focused than being, the income earner with a mortgage with 4 children. I was very focused to deliver, just really, really laser focused.
I love that you bootstrapped.
Yeah.
Because I think that's like a whole entirely different skill and also self-belief.
Yeah, no, it really was. I didn't realise it was so unusual. But I think, well, how can you ask someone else for money if you haven't kind of put your own in, and you're sort of like figuring out along the way. And then when we brought in our first investor, it was fantastic. They approached us, and we have an amazing investor. But then it's a different mindset, going, well, now I have to be even more disciplined to make sure I execute to show that I'm not wasteful. So it's really interesting, though. I think many businesses start, and the first thing they do is a fundraise. Whereas that was the last thing that I contemplated.
Yeah, you just went for it. You had a vision and you went for it. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. So to somebody listening right now that actually has an idea, like they can see a problem and they have a way to solve it, what are the first 3 things a startup should really focus on? Well,
the proof of the pudding, is, if you are solving this problem, is if someone will give you money for it. So, we were building our platform, Valocity, while we were building it, and we sold it to our first client as we went live. So it meant what we were building was solving their problem. We were collaborating with them, and the proof in the pudding was a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal as we went live. So whatever you're doing, you should be selling it while you're building it, because if someone won't give you money for it, your solution isn't viable, unless you're a charity and you're not expecting to make money. But if you are, then you have to be building something that's solving a known problem, and that the validation is someone will give you money and buy that. And it may be that it's going to take you a while to build a prototype, and so then it's thinking about, well, how do I bring the customers along in parallel so when I get there, it is going to work. So I think that's really fundamental. The second thing is team. You need a good team. Get the best people. Don't hire the cheapest people. Don't necessarily just choose your friends or those that you're comfortable with. And hire, if you're starting, you've got to hire for where your weaknesses are. You don't think, oh, I'm really weak at these things. I'm shit at accounting. I'm suddenly going to become a good accountant to manage my numbers. That should be the first thing you outsource if they're not good at that. So, don't think you need to be good at everything, because you're not, and you're going to you're going to inhibit your business if you're trying to do that. So I think that's another important point. Play to your strengths, and then you'll get your energy from that. When you're in the zone, you're loving what you're doing, you're excelling, your energy is just actually building because you're doing what you love. So don't force yourself to do something that's not. That's where you bring in people.
Yeah, I love that. And how do you lead your team? Because it looks like your team are powerhouses like yourself.
I think it's really important, to have a really strong culture and we have a playbook, how we behave, why we win, how we work, and really make sure that we're phenomenally protective of that culture. So, and the attitude is everything, that whole get stuff done attitude, problem solver attitude, and really, that actually we all just, roll up our sleeves and get in and do what needs to be done. I think empowerment is really important, but to do that, and once you start scaling into over 100 people in multiple locations around the world, alignment is the number one thing. So I often talk about, you're on a boat and you're the captain, and making sure everyone's in the right position and everyone knows what island we're going through, because otherwise, the sails are flapping or the wind's blowing, or we're just going all over the place and we're just going to get drifting in wherever we end up. So alignment on your goals and that focus and really communicating that strongly is really crucial, and then your team knows what to do, because if someone in your team's asking you stupid questions, it's because you haven't communicated where you're going, and that's why they are. So I think that alignment is really important.
Fantastic advice. And as you are walking in today, you're organising a fundraiser for UNICEF. Tell us about that work and why it's important for you to pay it forward.
I guess, as a tech founder, there's a lot of invitations to go on lots of boards, and I love UNICEF. It's part of the United Nations, and, when there's a war or something goes wrong, UNICEF and the United Nations goes in as opposed to going out. And UNICEF is all about the children. So as a mother of four, I'm really passionate about children's rights, and the work that they do over 50% of the world's vaccines. They've got rid of polio in countries, they've got rid of smallpox, and they're just making such a difference. But I also love the transparency of the charity, that I know where the money's going. So being a data geek, and making sure that that money is for good. So for example, the Ukraine at the moment, 95% of the funds raised goes straight to the end cause. And I think, as an entrepreneur or founder, certainly with 2 businesses and 4 children, you're time poor. So it's choosing where you're going to put your energy and your efforts, and for the maximum outcomes. And so that is one of the charities that is global, and makes a big difference to children's lives. So that's why I chose that one. Well, they kind of chose me, and I said, well, I'm too busy. I'll do this later on when I've got more time. And then they invited me to observe one of their board meetings, and I just fell in love with what they were doing, and the rest is history.
That's fantastic. And so how do you manage your schedule?
Sometimes I have to learn to say no, and it's hard because you can't do anything. And then I think as you scale, you also learn the art of delegation. What you did last year or the year before as a leader, if you've got a growing business that's scaling to over 100 people, you're not going to be doing the same things. So learning where can you delegate and where should you delegate, and where are you most important to put your time. So I'm head of strategy and head of culture, look after my people and where we're going. And I can't be in all the details. So I think it's about learning where you get the maximum outcomes, but also learning to say no. As I say, I could be out every single night speaking somewhere or doing something, but it's important for me to be at home, and also keeping the main thing to a balance. But also, I think, you also want to be the change you wish to see, and you can't always think I'm going to do that in the future or when I've got this, these things ticked off. So I also believe in that karma and giving back as you go along in the journey, whether it's giving back and inspiring somebody else with their business, or sharing some of those lessons learned of, the dead ends on the way up the mountain that will help somebody else to not make the same mistakes.
And you are such an inspiration, especially for other women, like we were talking about before the interview started, just how important it is for other women in business to see women like yourself excelling and just taking over the world. It's just absolutely incredible. And as I watch your Instagram, I think the thing for me is, like, you're so fit. And you have so much energy, and 4 children, and a great marriage, and also a social life and the business. So it's really inspiring to see somebody that's actually managing all of those things. What tips would you give to other women that are trying to spin a few plates?
I would say, actually be kind to yourself and recognise there's different times in your life for different things. So sometimes, I'm saying no to things, and my husband's really good, especially when I was travelling. Then I couldn't necessarily be going out Friday night and a Saturday night socially when I've had a massive week of travel. It's actually going, well, I'm going to have to choose. But also, or other times, last week I was in Australia, I took my running gear and it didn't come out of my bag. But it's actually going, well, I'm not going to beat myself up about that. Actually, I was really, really busy and did not probably another step. So it's giving yourself a break and recognizing there's different times in your life. When you're starting a business, then, you might be giving up other things and sacrificing that. So there's different phases in your life where you recognize what's important and what you need to balance. So, and I think the second thing is also recognizing there's so many days and hours in the day. And if you plan and prioritize and focus and not waste your time, you can also fit so much in. So, I drive from Waimaku, and instead of complaining about the traffic, I listen to a podcast on the way in from Blinkist. And on the way home, I'm always on a conference call to Australia or India. So I don't really notice the traffic, or when bringing my mother or my dad and catching up. So, it's really using your time. You realise how much time you have. My husband always says I'm such a geek because even while I'm doing my makeup, often my phone's playing and I'm listening to different podcasts and things because I need it. I'm finding out about different things in tech and data, and it's actually, I'm using that thinking time and I'm writing on the mirror while I'm brushing my teeth. So there's so many hours in the day that also, I suppose, I always feel, I did it all. And I'm making the most of the time.
Totally productive. And how do you sleep?
I'm very lucky. I don't need a lot of sleep. I've never needed a lot of sleep. So everybody says it's not normal. And I guess I was really lucky when I was traveling internationally a lot for work. So I don't need a lot of sleep. But I sleep really well. I think everybody says, what keeps you awake at night? And it's like, by the time my head hits the pillow at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, it's like quite happy to just hit the pillow. And then I sleep incredibly well. But as I say, I do have a sauna every night, and I find that really rejuvenating as well.
Absolutely amazing. Well, thank you so much for leading the way and showing us how, and for your practical wisdom. I just know for all the business owners and anyone watching or listening today that there's so much gold in this interview. Thank you for making time.
Thanks so much for having me, and all the best to you and all the business owners listening.
Thank you for listening and watching this episode of the Hustle Podcast. I hope that it inspires and empowers you to get your hustle game on hard to build your business. You can connect to more free trainings at Natalie Williams Coach on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I would love to help you build a powerful life and your dream business. Visit nataliewilliamscoach.com.